Welcome to the New Chemist. We're glad you're listening. Feel free to download this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other platforms. Here on the New Chemist, we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as careers, community, research, and COVID-19. We're happy you're tuning in.
Thank you, Mr. Bourne, for joining me today. Welcome to the New Chemist. We're glad you're listening. Feel free to download this podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Odyssey, and a variety of other platforms. Here on the New Chemist, we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as careers, community research, and Nobel Prize laureate lectures in chemistry, analyzing their speeches. We're happy you're tuning in. My guest today is a former teacher of mine from the great Bishop Michael Eldon School, Mr. Bourne. Thank you for joining me today. It is so good to hear from you. Just briefly, I'll inform my audience about you. So Mr. Bourne is a legend and a great teacher in his own right. He grew up in Guyana, went to an excellent university, passed several examinations. Also, he was an avid cricketer. He pursued his degrees, got distinction. He's been accomplished in his own right, a Google Educator certified level 1. He's married, has children, and he's also an ordained minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And he currently serves and worships at Word of Life Ministries International. Once again, it is good to have Mr. Bourne on the podcast today.
Awesome.
So exciting.
Awesome. Good to be here, David. Good to be here.
Yeah. So, Mr. Bourne, what have been your long-standing interests in the fields of science?
I tell you what, I really like organic chemistry. That's one of my areas that I've been really interested in. And when I teach, that's always been one of my more passionate areas. I'm also very passionate about food and analytical chemistry and STEM education. So those are just a few of the areas that I'm really interested in, and really trying as much as I can to make an impact in those areas, even at high school level.
Okay, yeah, that's good. So I have a quick question on that same trend. What practical thing have you done of recent, even in the pandemic, that allowed you to teach those concepts effectively, like organic chemistry concepts or basic analytical chemistry concepts? What have you done that's worked so well?
Well, I tell you what, it's as you talked about the pandemic that was one of the things that really threw a curveball in education. And we had to look for resources. And some of the ones that we would have used are some of the simulations that help students to really understand. I think PhET is one of the ones that I used quite extensively. I also, try to get a lot of digital content. CK12 is a program that I fell in love with, and my students were really interested to be absorbed in that kind of material, because what it did, it not only gave them the simple read this or watch this video, but they also had animations, and they had simulations and those kinds of things that really drove some of these concepts home a whole lot better than we could have done, teaching it in a more conventional way.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, simulations are good. Even in graduate school, we used a few simulations like Babino, in which we could look at ligand docking, and also Spartan for certain classes. So there are a lot of simulations that are available when it comes to teaching chemistry content. Even Chemistry LibreText, that's a good resource as well. So, how do you maintain view of the bigger picture in your career and in your life in general? How do you keep perspective as a teacher and as a person?
Okay, I one of the things that I try to do is I strive to constantly improve myself.
Okay.
You cannot become, in education, you cannot allow yourself to become stagnant, because before you know it, you'll become that 800-pound gorilla in the room. So constantly I've been trying to improve myself in terms of exposing myself to the whatever it is that might be trending, or whatever it is that might be, the breaking things in education or whatever. The other thing that I don't compromise my beliefs or my ethics, irrespective of the situations that I'm in. Mm-hmm. Because I believe that you have to be you. You have to be true to yourself.
I agree. And
that's one of the areas in which I really, I strive to continue to be who I am, and don't lose sight of the big picture. Yes, we're in education. Yes, we're making a difference. Yes, these are some of the things that are happening. But then you are still responsible to be the better version of yourself every day, And so that's what I try to do, because with me being a better version of myself, when I come to my students, I could demand a better version of them. Mm-hmm. You understand?
I agree.
And we could say to themselves, you know what? He's not shortchanging me, because he is also trying to, the thing that he's asking me to do, he's trying to do it for himself.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, how have you been adaptive and creative in the field of science? What would you say has complemented you being effective so long as a teacher in education? What would you say has allowed you to be creative in how you instruct or adapt to the different conditions? What would you say has been a complementary factor? How have you done it?
No problem. For quite a long time, or quite a significant number of years, you've been accustomed to doing things a particular way, or, getting things done and getting, pretty good results. But I think COVID-19, as I said before, was a curveball. It really threw a spoke in the wheel of educators, and it really caused us to take a hard introspective look at the programs and the learning and the teaching and learning materials that we were producing and we were, making available to our students. And so I was forced, when COVID hit and everything shut down and we had to go virtually, I was forced, as so many other educators were, to really search for other ways of reaching the students. Mm-hmm. Because it wasn't just easy it wasn't just okay to just talk and get their attention. You had to grasp their attention. And so Google certification was one of the things that I really turned to, and I think it really helped my creativity.
Okay.
Yes, I used almost the whole suite.
Okay, so that's good.
Things, I used the Google Forms for multiple choice testing. We used the Google Slides for presented material. Mm-hmm. We got collected information and put it in Google Sheets, all of those. So, it really gave me an opportunity to,
expand your repertoire.
Expand my repertoire, yes. I also talked about CK12, very good digital content. And one of the things that they allowed me to do after I was certified with them is they allowed me to, what is the word I'm looking for? They allowed me to be able, they have a textbook. Uh-huh. It's a digital textbook. But
to contribute to the digital textbook?
Yeah, they allowed me to make the relevant changes that I might, so that it might be more relevant to my students.
Okay.
So that was awesome in itself, because the students, they love the content.
Okay.
So, but some of the things were not necessarily, tailored for
contextually specific.
Yes. So I had to then use my creativity to, try and weave in those things.
I agree.
Add those things in, and it's not a finished product, but of course it's something that is an ongoing project for me.
Okay, that's good. So, Mr. Bourne, can you explain what is CK12 for those who may not know, or who may want to Google it or find out about it? What is CK12?
No problem. CK12 is it's an educational platform.
Uh-huh.
It seamlessly integrates with your learning platforms such as Google Classroom, or whatever LMS that you might have.
Uh-huh.
We of course use Google Classroom, and what it does, it presents the material in a way that I've never really seen it before. To an extent. Because what it does, it offers, for every topic that you do, there's a little bit of reading, there's a video to watch, there are always some questions that they would ask you to see how well you were grasping the material. There are simulations, there are animations.
Wow.
The part that I love is what is called adaptive learning. So when it's time for the students to practice, what they would do is they would start asking questions. There are 3 different difficulty levels. There's easy, the medium, and the hard. So what they do is when they ask students a question, and if they see that they're struggling for, say, on the medium questions, then what they do is they from the reservoir of questions that they have, they kind of tailor it back for that particular student. So that student then is able to get more confidence, build up their confidence on maybe easier questions before they tackle the more difficult ones.
Wow.
And so, yes.
This is good. It sounds like a good resource, Mr. Bourne.
Yeah, man, a really good resource. And so for anybody who's looking for that, you can just go to ck12.org. You can sign up as a teacher. And they are always running, I think in the summer especially, they run the certification programs. And of course, they could then go, jump head first after that. That's
good. To make sure the students get the resources they need.
That's right.
So how have you sort of found the right environment for you to thrive scientifically and intellectually? So what led you to choose University of Guyana? What led you to choose Bishop Michael Eldon School to teach at? Why did you choose those institutions? Well,
I tell you what, when in Guyana, I wouldn't say it was much of a choice.
Okay.
Guyana, the University of Guyana is the premier tertiary educational facility.
Okay.
And, so when I came out from high school, I worked pretty briefly in the banks because I didn't have the money to go to school. I didn't have money to go, to pay for tertiary education.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after I got a scholarship that I was able to go there. So the scholarship, it kind of like pushed me in that area. But I always believe that God works things out in ways that you can't understand.
I agree.
So that when you think that you should have gone here or gone there, He knows exactly what it is that you needed. And I think that was a very good experience for me because, one, it allowed me to at that time I wasn't very mature as a person.
Okay.
It allowed me to mature really, really well. And it was there that I really developed the love for teaching because, as you know, when you're in college or university, at a certain level, especially if you're holding a certain GPA, the lecturers then come to you and ask you, would you be willing to do some tutoring?
Yeah.
Yes, and so that's how I really got started. Found that there were people who were constantly coming to me for help. Could you explain this to me? I don't understand this. That as I did it more and more, I realized, hey, this is something that I could definitely do. I had people who used to come to my home and seek me out more or less for me to explain
concepts to them.
Concepts that they did not get when the lecturer did it. And that in itself, give me this impetus that, hey, maybe I could, get involved in a career in education. Bishop Michael Eldon, I was working at the Sugar Corporation back home as a chemist, and it was a very good job. But of course, in terms of the finances, it didn't really allow me to do what I wanted to do. And so Bishop Michael Eldon, that opportunity came up through a friend of mine. She introduced me, and it was a home run since I've been, I've not taught at any other school since I've come to the Bahamas, So we're going on 17 years now.
Wow, this is good, Mr. Bourne. I'm glad you taught me. I've benefited in a lot of ways.
Yes.
A lot of ways from you teaching me. And I would say the same thing, even in university, I tutored as well. When I first started tutoring at Taylor University, where I tutored general chemistry and organic chemistry. And of course, I was paid. But I loved tutoring so much that even in graduate school, I tutored for free.
Wow.
I tutored some students for free. Even with my busy schedule, I tutored some students for free. And
that's when you know that it's a part of you.
Yeah.
that you don't necessarily look for the remuneration.
Yeah.
But, you recognize that this is something that, somebody needs and you have. I always remember the scripture says, freely have you received. In a lot of cases, you've received a lot. Some cases we had to pay for it, of course. But I think of it like this. There are some people who have poured into me to make me who I am. And so it's just it's just that kind of reciprocal nature.
Yeah, I agree.
Getting back into it and giving it, pouring into somebody else's,
Yeah, it's better to give than to receive.
Definitely, man.
Yep. Definitely. So what have been your how do you maintain a balanced life given all your responsibilities and accomplishments? So how do you maintain balance, Mr. Bourne? You're busy, you're teaching a lot of students, man. You also have a personal life.
I tell you,
balance.
I tell you, well, the thing about it is that the students sometimes how they behave is sometimes they think that all that you do is teach.
Yeah.
They think that when they go home in the evening, you take a bath right in school, and you sleep there in the night, and you're ready to go again early.
Man, that's funny. Eat breakfast at the school. You live at the school.
Have breakfast and everything, but I do have a life outside of school, and I work really hard at trying to maintain that balance, because I believe that balance is the key for you. Getting ahead in any area, you must be balanced.
I agree.
You must learn to walk that fine line of balance. So for me, I'm involved in church. I have responsibilities of church, and so that is one of the one area that sometimes I feel like I'm overwhelmed with work at school. There's an outlet there.
I agree.
I also love fishing.
Okay.
So, I haven't gotten a chance to do a lot of that lately.
Yeah, that's fair.
I have rods and stuff, and so whenever it's getting tough and it's getting too much for me, I find myself somewhere on a beach, or in a canal, and I'm fishing, and for me it's therapeutic.
I agree. Yeah.
Yes, I'm able to, relax my mind, get fresh perspective, be able to be rejuvenated. So, those are some of the things that I do. Also, when in high school, I was an avid sportsman.
Okay.
But of course, I can't play those sports now.
Okay, that's
a lot of them. I watch a lot of them. I love watching basketball, cricket. Soccer. Then the Soccer World Cup was just the other day, so I watched that. I watched a lot of those games. I even watch golf. My wife doesn't understand it, but
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's good. So you have outlets.
Yes, they are. You must have outlets.
I agree. Yeah, for me, it's me also watching tennis as well as playing some tennis. Working
I know that you played, right?
I played tennis a lot in high school.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's definitely having balance. Like one of my former guests, one of my colleagues from Georgia Tech, Mr. Sharif Ali, he told me that he approaches it from the perspective of balance in different compartments. If you view life in compartments, whether it be social, faith, work, having balance throughout those compartments. So if you skew to one area, you can kind of adjust, and because it's a constant adjusting, it's a constant adapting.
Yes, it's a push and pull here. Yes, always.
Yeah,
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. So, what would you say has complemented your success as a teacher? Would you say it's the mentors you've had, the study that you do, the prep that you do, your lesson plans, how you approach teaching the student, your teaching philosophy? What would you has complemented to you being successful as a teacher?
All right. For me, one of the most important things that you could do is create a rapport with your students.
Okay.
Yeah, so creating rapport. So for me, I want to create an environment that is oftentimes relaxed, but it's respectful.
Okay.
Students, this teaching learning environment is something that is a dynamic, joke and we laugh. I always tell a student came back to me the other day after a couple of years of graduating and said, Mr. Bourne, how come you're still here? I said, I've always found a way to laugh.
Wow.
I've always found a way to laugh because, it's sometimes work can be tough.
Yeah,
sometimes I agree. Everything that you have to do can wear down on you. But for me, I always look for an opportunity that I could find, something to laugh at, something to make a little joke about, and so that's one of the things I want the students to understand, that the environment that we create in class must be one where they're not afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not afraid to express themselves.
Yeah.
You go into some classes and they don't want it, it's like a censorship. The teacher doesn't want the student to say anything. I'd be the first to tell my students, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
Especially in this digital age. I don't
Same
know.
Same here.
Understand? And sometimes somebody could bring something to the table that I've never even considered, never even looked at, never even, had the ability or the opportunity to look at. And so I embrace those things. I want them to think critically.
Yeah.
So those are the things. I think the other thing is I listen.
Okay.
I show empathy.
Okay.
I think those are the things that help me to become successful as a teacher, because people who I don't even teach find their way into my classroom.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
They find a way. And so those are the kind. I think sometimes we look for the
grandiose,
technical, and the traditional, but I think teaching there's a human aspect that you can never overlook.
I agree.
You understand? When the students are able, I always remember somebody telling me, he says, if the students trust you and like you, they're able to learn from you a whole lot better. You understand? And
I agree.
So that's one of those, that's always been my watchword, create that environment where students feel safe. Students feel like they could come and they could say, Mr. Bourne, this is what is happening. This is what is going on at home. This is why I can't give you your homework. This is, of course, they're the ones who will try to use that to get around you. But there are often genuine cases with children who are struggling with some difficult situations, and
I agree.
You have to be able to understand, somewhat what they're dealing with, and be able to help them through those, navigate those areas in their lives, and that's where teaching becomes more than just the curriculum. It becomes teaching, them for life and giving them life skills that they could use to navigate. So I think that those are the things that I mentioned. Those are the things that I found most impactful for me as a teacher. Yes, I create. Yes, I teach. Yes, people come and they write, yeah, Mr. Bourne is a good teacher, whatever. But for me, all of those things, those compliments, stem from the fact of the kind of person that I am and how I'm able to help them get over these hurdles.
I agree.
Help them to, blossom.
I agree.
Students,
Yeah, that's good, Mr. Bourne. So I have a quick question. How do you go about teaching students with different abilities? Because you teach a classroom with students who have differing abilities.
Yes.
How do you go about it? Is it like you tailor your instruction to them, or do you tailor how you assess them, or is it a complement of all of those things?
Man, sometimes you as a teacher, you have to come up with the whole gamut.
Okay.
Meaning that there are times when you are able to pull them aside. The other members of the class can move forward, or they are doing something, or when you develop your lessons, you have some component. This person might be not so good at chemistry, but they're good at acting, or they're good at whatever. And so you always try to see if there's somewhere you could bring in that kind of, spark to your lesson, that they get an opportunity to act, pulling students out and sometimes just getting to the bottom of who they're struggling.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
really go through.
Yes, and sometimes you'd realize that you pull them out, and sometimes the thing that they were struggling to have to understand in a classroom setting, they're able to understand it in 10, 15 minutes. Because what? They're now it's only you and them. They're not afraid of sounding, oh, hey, this that I said might sound stupid, or this that I say might embarrass me. So they're able to kind of open up themselves. Yeah. And, from there, you're able to deal with the situation a whole lot more. But of course, when you look at data, teaching styles and all of that, you recognize that you cannot just bring one thing all the time. You got to give students an opportunity to express themselves in various ways. And so whatever it is, sometimes it's, you find that somebody's failing your test, but you give them a brochure to create, and they are excellent at that.
Yeah.
Or, the digital skills are off the chains, and so you try to use those things now to help to motivate them and to, help them to see that, hey, I could do it. I might just do it in a different form, but I could definitely do it.
Yeah, so as you teach, you reach the person where they are with their gifting, with their skill, and make sure that the concept is learned. That's good, Mr. Bourne. That's very good. So how have you maintained vision and teamwork in your classroom, in your environment? How do you maintain vision and teamwork?
Well, one of the things that is of prime importance is the input of your students and my colleagues. Okay. So I'm always open to what somebody has to say. Sometimes, we could be these egotistical individuals that think that I could do this all by myself. I've been doing it. I'm an only child from my mother, and so for a lot of my life I lived alone. And so sometimes, I have to shake myself out of that, hey, I'm not an island.
I agree.
Myself. I have to, I embrace, what somebody else is saying. And so I'm happy for, teaching partners. We share resources, we share ideas, we share strategies, the ones that work and the ones that don't work.
I agree.
We bounce ideas off of each other, and it's the other thing that I do is I do my own, I do self-evaluations.
Okay.
How am I, did I really do the best that I could in this area? Did I really teach this like I could? Or is this the best that I could have done? Collaborations. Don't be afraid to pull people in. And with me saying that, I haven't forgotten you, sir. So I know that we are, we are at the busy point of school, but I will definitely,
reach out to me.
Take you up on your offer to come in and to share with my students, because
definitely
what you have is you have a wealth of knowledge to offer.
Thank you.
And I want the students to be exposed to some of the thoughts and the things that go on in your mind and how you present things and set things up. So
yeah, man, you're very kind. Thank you, Mr. Bourne. Thank you. Yeah. So I have two questions, two scenarios before we start to wrap up. Two scenarios. Yes. How do you deal with the lack of resources? Because we're on Grand Bahama Island. How do you deal on one of the best schools in the island? So how do you deal with the lack of resources when you encounter that? What do you do? How do you approach it?
That is one of the most difficult things that I have had to deal with. Just things that are sometimes that you think that every science lab should have and it doesn't have it. It always pains me whenever, students come and ask me, you explore a concept and they said, hey, could we look at that? Or could we do that? And you said, you know what? Unfortunately, we don't have that. That's one of the most difficult things for me to say to my students. And so sometimes what we have to do is we have to get creative. I came from Guyana. And in Guyana, we are resourceful people. And so sometimes we have to come up with different, it might not be the same experiment, but it is a similar experiment that the concept is still there. They're still able to, deal with that. Or it might be something that we don't have the particular chemical, but we could use something, a household chemical, something that you could use, So those are some of the things that, you really have to, and you have to stay on top of your game to know what is available and what is not, what you could bring to the classroom. Sometimes, unfortunately, we've had to put our hands in our own pockets and get things. Sometimes we've had to approach parents, to help us out with some of the materials. But those are some of the things that, I remember at one time, PharmaChem, one of the other local organizations, they were just compiling a list of things that they wanted to, get into our labs. Unfortunately, I think that we had Dorian and COVID and all of that, and that kind of petered out. But you know the from the
Onset.
from getting people from the outside, the business community, to help.
Public-private partnership.
Yes, you could also. So those are some of the things that I do. Get the parents involved where necessary, because once a parent knows that this is something that's going to enhance the education of their child, and they could afford it, they will do it. They will get on board.
Yeah.
If it's something that I could make or I could facilitate, I do it.
I agree.
So those are some of the areas that we get around that, and I can't leave this one out. UB has been a tremendous help.
Yeah.
Because they've offered, after talking to
relative faculty,
relative faculty members and so on, those people that use my room, they've always given me the go ahead. Use whatever you need. And so we've been able to utilize some of the things that they've had to help enhance what we want to present to our students. And so that is something that is, definitely has been a plus for us there. But we still are dealing with chronic shortage. Ensure that they are making a difference in the lives of people. When I look at you guys, I look at students that I've taught many years ago, and I see them becoming, productive members of society. That in itself, that is something that excites me, because it tells me, hey, these are going to start and continue this trend. They're going to use their gifts to help somebody else. So as teachers, we must be in a position where you're willing to adapt as well. Adaptation, some people, that's the hardest word. The older we are, I think the more difficult it is. The younger people are able to move and switch at a dime. But we must be able to adapt to changing situations. If anything, COVID taught us is that we must be able to adapt. So that's one of the things. We must be able to adapt. We must be able to utilize what we have in our hands.
I agree.
Don't always look for the perfect opportunity. It has to be this or it has to be that. Sometimes I've had most impactful lessons have sometimes been the simplest lessons that I've planned. Sometimes you come with all of the
bells and whistles,
and the bells and whistles, and it just goes over their heads.
I agree. I've been there.
You have to be in a position to hey, quickly self-evaluate, quickly check, see how this happens, and then be willing to make the change if it's necessary. So I believe that those are some of the things that, as teachers, don't just think of the money. The money is important, I understand. But if you're just in it for the money, you'll find that after a few years, maybe, you'll find it very difficult to get up and go, because it'll seem like a chore. But when you're excited about what you're doing and excited about making a difference in children's lives, you get up. I always tell some students, I say, look, I remember I had a very difficult class one year, and it's like 90% of the class were troublemakers.
Oh, wow.
They were tough. But you know what? They always say, when they see me now, they say, you were our best teacher. But there were a few students in the class, and I would always tell them, they say, Mr. Bourne, how come you always come and you are excited to teach us? I said, there are some people who give me the motivation. You understand? There are some of the students in that class that, I made a joke and I said, I'm quitting this job and I'm going to walk puppies. The girl said, Mr. Bourne, don't quit the class. We need you. So sometimes you that very one, that might be a distraction or whatever. You find a way. This is the one that needs me. And you get up every day because you want to make a difference. You want to see that child make a turnaround. So that's always been my philosophy, and I think that's one of the reasons that I've been at it for this long.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to remember that, we are servants. We've been given gifts, and we've been given the expertise, and we've been given the opportunity to wield that expertise to make an impact in the lives of other people.
Yes,
we're not the primary focus. It's not about
no.
our articulated prestige. It's about how can we help someone else.
Somebody else.
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Bourne, it was so good to have one of my former teachers on this podcast. I mean, you are one of the first former. Thanks for listening. We're glad you were able to tune into this podcast. Once again, this is The New Chemist, where we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as the other sciences, careers, community, research, and COVID-19. Thanks again for listening. Note, the views on this podcast represent those of my guests and I.
Have you heard? Have you heard? The newest and best Bahamian resource for test preparation for BJCs and BGCSEs. Check us out on Facebook or at anansibahamas.com. Again, check us out on Facebook or at www.anansibahamas.com, where Mr. Ferguson is the COO. There are a lot of resources, especially for Bahamian students. Anansi Learning Technologies. Check us out.